those of you who are new. This is going to be a story time, and I don't want it to be super long, so I'm going to get right into it. Before I do, comment, like, subscribe. Tell me what you're liking on my channel, what you're not liking, what you want to hear, what you don't want to hear. I would love it if you sounded off below. Don't forget to hit the notification bell right there so that you always know what I'm posting. I would love to have you come back, but if you don't, hopefully you can stay through this story, because this is the story I'm going to be trying to kind of connect with you more. I love to just look into the camera like I'm actually speaking to you. I hate always having to read from my notes because I can't remember everything, but all of this I have remembered, or I will try to recall as best as I can. And again, this is a paranormal story time. This is kind of, it's strong. It's not necessarily, I don't think, something that's going to be offensive to anyone or anything like that, but just know that my paranormal story times can be very, very strong. So if you're sensitive, or if you get really scared, or you've been really scared from any of my past stories, you may want to skip this one. So I'm going to start off with something that has recently happened to me that was very significant. I don't know what it means. If any of you can sound off, like I said below, I would love more interaction with you. If anybody can give me an idea of what else this might be, or maybe something that's happened to you this way. So before I start into my story, this happened last week. It's just a regular day. It's been really hot here in New York, and it was, I want to say it was last weekend, the hottest 2 days we've had in the entire summer. I mean, it was sticky, heavy, just that thick heat where it's really hard for you to breathe. I can't breathe. I can't imagine, you know, if you have asthma, if you're super young or super old. I think that's the weather that causes death. That's how hot it was. So anyway, regular day, I'm in my room with the air conditioning going like you would not believe. Had it on all day, both days that weekend. And so I go out. I wanted to get a drink. I came back in. Actually, I'm sorry. Went out to get a drink. I went to the kitchen to just get some water, put ice in my water. And as I was going in the kitchen, I have shown my apartment a little bit in some of my videos. Well, anyway, we have a fairly small apartment. I can't complain because we have 2 bedrooms, so I can't complain. But as I was going into the kitchen, it's just literally a couple steps away. In my peripheral vision, by the door in the corner, mind you, our apartment, it was getting later, so the apartment is kind of twilight, not exactly dark, not exactly light. We turn off everything just to conserve so that we can have the air conditioning on when it's really hot like that. So out of the corner of my eye, I saw, I don't know, I saw a man, and he really didn't have any clothes on. He was very, very thin. He was about my height. Big, big eyes, like huge eyes like this. And his hair was just standing straight up. It's kind of rounded. It wasn't an afro, it was like straight hair that was sticking on end. And it was about up to here. And like I said, he was thin, he was very, very dark in color. I don't know if he was black. He didn't seem black to me, but he was kind of shiny. And he had his hands like in the middle of his chest, and he just had that look like, can you see me? You saw me? Like, did you see me? Like that's how he was looking at me. And I was like, okay, so I don't like to see things. I don't want to see things. I really, really, honestly, truly don't want to see anything. But I saw it, and it wasn't like a vision, like, you know, I'm looking at this camera right now. It was kind of like something you see in your mind's eye that kind of just comes across and then quickly goes away. It lasted for a couple of seconds. So I just didn't pay attention to it. I was like, okay, whatever, it's outside. It's not like in my room or anything. I don't feel anything bad. I'm not overwhelmed. The atmosphere did feel a little weird, but it wasn't anything that was too much. So anyway, came back in the room a little bit later as I was just walking around my room, just kind of trying to situate things. A huge, huge, huge pop. And it was more than a pop. It was like a bang pop. It was like, boom! And it was right outside my window. It wasn't a firecracker. wasn't a gunshot. I know what those two sound like very distinctly. Being raised in the hood, you know what a gunshot sounds like, and you know what firecrackers sound like. So no, it was not either. My sister heard it. I ran to her room and she was like, what the hell is that? I don't know. So that was number 2. And a little later on, as the night wore on, there's only 2 apartments in the part of my building. It's a walk up. There are elderly people upstairs. All 3 of them were there. I know that because they rarely leave the apartment and they're always upstairs. They were walking around. So it was late too. So as in, you know, they're elderly, so they don't go out very often. I mean, I think they go to church on Sundays, things like that. They've been here for a while, so I kind of know their routine. I'm sure they know mine. But I heard someone trying to get in. And it wasn't, you know, I know how they sound coming up the stairs. I know how they sound opening the door. It was just like a push and pull on the door, and it reminded me of my first video, the first story that I've ever posted to YouTube. And yeah, so that recently happened. It just brought me back to all that I went through. I don't know why that happened. I'm just, you know, this is what I'm starting my video off with. So yeah, nothing has happened. A week has gone by, nothing else has happened, and I hope nothing else will, but I just thought that I would share that with you. So the story that I want to share with you, I did hear online, and it takes place in New York. I don't know if it's real or not. It was a website where just random people tell their story. And I wanted to tell you this story because it kind of hit home with me. And I spent a day thinking about that story, and I had the most horrible day ever. And I think it caused me to have just the worst day of my life, to the point where I had almost had an altercation on the streets of New York, which is not surprising. If you want to know about that, that'll be in another video. But okay, so his story is he's getting out of work. He works on Wall Street, so he's not, maybe it wasn't Wall Street. Again, this is coming from my memory, so forgive me if I'm a little off. Let's just say he was getting off work, and it was at a time when, you know how in New York, unions go on strike, blah, blah, blah. There was something going on downstairs, and it was huge. So when he got out of his building, there were masses and masses of people everywhere. So he's like, it's gonna take me an hour just to get to the entrance of the train. And I can relate because, you know, I always have to find, let me fix this camera a little bit. I always have to find like a different way home or an alternate route home. So that's just something, if you live in New York, you just, you know, it's second nature. So he's going through the crowds, and he decides to go to a second train, to a second stop where he could get the train and not have all these throngs and throngs of people. It was just an ordinary day for him. He was just going, you know, going home to his wife. As he was getting, I believe his office was close to Columbus Square. All these places I've been to. I want to say his office was on Wall Street, but I have been through there. My sister's been through there. You know, these are familiar places to me, so I could not stop listening. So as he's walking, he starts feeling like this feeling of horrible, horrible dread and fear, and he didn't know why. He was just simply going home, normal routine. I mean, something he's done a million times. So he started to feel dread, he started to feel fear, and he didn't understand why. So when you're in New York and you're going home from work, there's just noise everywhere. Noise. I mean, you can't get away from it. And it all kind of drones together. You become jaded, you become immune to it. So when you focus in on something, it's really weird how all that noise drops away, falls away, and you can distinctly just zoom in on what you're focused in on. And as he was walking, what caught his attention was a guy, and there's homeless people everywhere. And going through his mind was, oh, you know, you really didn't have time to stop and give this guy something. They're everywhere. He was just going through his random thoughts like we all do when we're walking to and from home or driving or whatever. So he saw this young guy. He said, pretty, you know, looked healthy, regular looking guy, had a mustache, just, you know, a regular young guy on the streets of New York begging for money, and I've seen them as well. So I'm like, okay, I'm picturing this to a T because I see these young people every day that have his particular sign. Again, signs that I've seen before was that he needed bus fare or money to get back home. I believe he was from Wisconsin or something. So that's what his sign was, and I'm like, oh my God, you know, relate all the way. So he's coming. He's not that close to him, but he's inching forward because he has to pass him to get to his station. Before he actually gets to him, he didn't understand why his fear, his dread was building. It had been building since the moment he set eyes on him, and kind of everything dropped away, and he was just so focused on him, and he didn't realize or know why. Then he started to smell, and believe me, the smells of New York in the summer are disgusting. It's just piss and shit. It's piss, shit, vomit, you name it. It's really bad, and in certain areas, it's horrendous. Not always, but most of the time you pick up on those smells, and it's just all you can do to breathe. You want to just kind of race through those areas. But he said that this smell hit him in the chest. Like he was having physical reactions to what he was smelling and what he was feeling, to the point of feeling sick. So as he was getting closer to him, he sees two men. Actually, it was two, but it was one to begin with. One man comes, and the man that he saw was thin. At a glance, he said his skin wasn't like ours. It was like a little bit grayish. Now, he notices this all and really quickly, but I'm trying to kind of sum this up so I'm not here forever. He said that the suit was ill-fitted, and he was extremely, extremely, extremely thin, not to the point of malnourishment, but just super thin. And again, the suit was okay. It didn't, you know, an ill-fitted suit just looks like that. And he said the color was brown, and he looked awkward in it. He looked like he just was uncomfortable in the suit, and he had a tie, just looked like another regular guy in the street going home from work. So he stops and begins speaking to the guy, that's the young guy, the beggar on the street, and he kneels down. And by this time, the guy's getting closer and closer to him, so he's able to hear bits and pieces of the conversation. And of course, the young guy is explaining that, you know, he needs money to get home. The one guy goes into his pocket after a minute or two of conversation and pulls out. At this point, the guy kind of stops. The guy that's, you know, walking past. Hopefully I haven't confused you, but the guy stops. The guy that's, you know, viewing all this stops for a moment because he's really close, and he can't really say why he stopped, but he stopped just to see what the hell, what would happen. And the guy speaking to the homeless guy, he pulls out what looks like a wad of cash, just, you know, encircled in a rubber band. And it seems like he's gonna give it to him, but he's kind of holding on to it. He's just kind of like thinking about giving it to him. And he heard bits and pieces of the conversation, and the guy was like, but I want to live. The homeless guy sitting on the floor, this is what he hears clearer than anything in that conversation. He goes, but I want to live. So the guy that's watching all this is like, what? So that's when he just, like, if there was noise in the background before, there's no noise in the background now. He's really zoomed in on that guy and the homeless guy on the floor. So he's like, look, it really doesn't matter. You're going to die anyway. You can have all this money, blah, blah, blah. And the conversation continues. Again, he can't hear everything. He's just hearing bits and pieces, but he says, you're more than welcome to it. What do you think? You know, what do you want to do? You know, you can have all this money, you can be free, whatever, whatever. And then the guy sits there and he thinks and thinks and thinks. And the guy who's watching is like, he didn't know what to think. He couldn't stop watching. He was just stuck. So eventually the guy takes the money. And another guy comes, very similar. He's got a gray suit on, very similar to the guy that gave him the money. Now, at this point, the young guy takes the money, grabs what little things he has, and passes him. He begins to walk again because he kind of regains his senses a little bit. The guy passes him and is just like thanking God and praying and saying, oh my God, this is so much money. Thank you so much. So the guy passes him and he continues to walk because he's got to now pass these two guys. There's a new guy that has entered the picture, a little taller than the other guy. And he has like a gray suit, same stature, same uncomfortableness. and the stench is just getting worse. So he's like, okay, I still have to get to my train. So he's just kind of walking and staring, walking and staring. And both of these guys are talking in clicks and sounds. The guy stopped talking English. Once the second guy takes the picture, they just start talking in these clicks and sounds. He said that it was guttural and it just sounded, it was the worst thing he had ever heard. It was like gargling with glass and trying to speak through glass. And you know what? I've heard my name. I remember distinctly hearing my name. It's in one of my videos. I tell you about the story that way. It was a voice that sounded like swallowed glass, and it said my name, and I know how disgusted and scared I was when that happened to me. So at this point, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe he's still gonna pass them. I would have just ran the other way, but he continued walking past them, and the one guy, I guess, noticed he was staring. So the guy that came in later was like, English, English. And the guy's like, who the hell cares? It doesn't matter. He's gonna, that meat suit will be mine in a year. Meat suit? What? So basically the deal was that guy sold his soul. I don't even know what to say at this point. Obviously, you know that guy is going to die. And I forgot what year it was. He said the year. So he had 1 year, and the guy, I want to say it was 2012, 2013. So either he died, I don't know. I don't know, because I don't know what happened after. But the guy who was listening to all this was slowly coming back to his senses. The guys noticed him staring and noticed that he was listening. And the one guy that gave the homeless guy the money, he was like, oh, well, look at this, look what this chimp can do. Was calling him names and saying, look what this chimp can do. Because apparently we can't see them. Most people can't see them. Like, not everyone can see and hear what I can see and hear, what just happened to me, what happened to me in my first video. I don't know that many people who have had these weird things happen to them. So apparently, he was just like me in that he has a sixth sense, that he's able to see beyond what's right in front of his nose. So yeah, they were like, look at what this chimp is doing, and the other guy was just trying to quiet him and say, just calm down, it doesn't matter, whatever. So he keeps walking, and the guy started walking towards him, both of them, and stood in front of his face, and I'm like, what the hell are you looking at? And just told him to keep walking. And by then he was dizzy and sick and just kept walking. And instead of heading towards the station, he kind of woke up in a daze with this guy who had his shoulders. And when he realized he had not only passed the station, he was miles and miles and miles and miles beyond where his station was. When basically all he had to do was maybe walk another few steps, like a block, half a block, to get to his station. So whatever they had done to him, not only did they had a hypnotic power over him, and he almost died because the guy who had him by the shoulders kind of took him out of traffic, because he was just aimlessly walking, mindlessly, and everything came back to him, and finally he made his way home. But yeah, that was the story. Even thinking about it makes my skin crawl. And like I said, the day that I heard that story and I was thinking about it before I went to bed, I got up thinking about it, wondering, are these beings really in New York? Are they out there when I'm on the train? Am I seeing them? Do I pass them? And let me tell you, I had some stuff happen to me that day, and I kind of shook it off. I said a prayer, and I said, you know what? No, I'm not gonna let this affect me. Yeah, with this story, it just made me realize that not everyone that I see on the street is completely human. So, guys, make good decisions so that your life is the best it can be. I hope I scared the crap out of you, and I will see you in my next video. Mwah.